Hello and welcome along to the very first episode of the Across the Fourth Football Podcast. For today anyway, I'm your host Aaron Fraser and I'm joined by Logan and Stephen. We've had a few pilot episodes a few months ago, but we're doing this for real now. First podcast episode, boys. How are you feeling about, well, today I suppose you're busy tonight?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to it. Hibs game tonight. Should be better than last week for Hibs. Obviously, Stephen will have a better opinion of that of me, but looking forward to getting started in what should be a good season and hopefully a long running podcast.
Yeah, it's exciting to be going to first competitive game at home anyway this season. I just hope that it doesn't end in boos.
Well, there's a fairly high chance that may happen if your team, Stephen, have any intentions of matching the performance from a couple of days ago. Then I'm sure that'll go down very well with what should be a fairly large crowd at Easter Road tonight. So tonight for today's podcast, we're going to discuss the opening day fixtures for the glorious Cinch Premiership. Also have a look at the lower leagues and do some predictions as well as also some League Cup football to discuss. So pretty Scottish football central for our first episode. We may branch out as the season goes on, but for now, we're sticking to what we know and just talking about the good old Scottish football. So first of all, we've got the opening day fixtures for the Premiership. Doesn't concern you, Logan. You down there in Division 2. You can just stay there all you please. Leave it to the big boys, all right? We'll talk about our big league. Thank you very much. So the champions, Celtic, host Ross County on the opening day. Dundee begin another season promoted from the Championship with a home fixture against Motherwell. Livingston host Aberdeen. Hearts, Charlton and Johnston. And Kilmarnock host Rangers at Rugby Park. So a very packed opening schedule. First of all, Celtic, Ross County, your thoughts on that one, boys? To be honest, it should be fairly easy for Celtic, given that County only just managed to avoid relegation last year with a playoff win on penalties, might I add, over promotion hopefuls Partick Thistle. But City Parkhead, it's opening day, it's flag day. Celtic always seem to turn on a style when that happens. So your thoughts on the opening day then, boys?
Yeah, I think Celtic will obviously get the 3 points, but it'll be interesting to see how they are under Brendan Rodgers. Obviously, a fan going to Spurs. Brendan Rodgers obviously coming back to the club. Be interesting to see how he does and how his team line up and with the new signings as well. So yeah, I think Celtic will win comfortably. Ross County topped their group in the League Cup, but I don't think they were as convincing as they probably should have been in that group. You know, they were 3-1 up, I believe, against Kelty, and then 3-0 in the remaining minutes of that game, and then lost on penalties. So I think Celtic will cruise to a comfortable victory, and then it'll probably give them in good stead to go on in the season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to basically the whole of last season with Celtic at home. Nobody can really get near them. All I can see is them putting 4 or 5 past Ross County, to be honest.
I mean, Ross County, obviously a side that did struggle a lot last season, but did show a lot of character to come back from such a deficit against Thistle and somehow miraculously surviving the Premiership for this season. But I do think that Celtic will comfortably put them in their place, to be honest, on the opening day. Next up, Dundee and Motherwell. To be honest with you, boys, I think Motherwell could struggle this season. They lost Kevin Van Veen, obviously, but I'm not too sure there's something about me that makes me think they're going to struggle a lot this year. Obviously, their home form is always going to be their saviour, as it tends to be at Fir Park, but I've just got a feeling that they're going to struggle. And Dens Park's a tricky place to go, especially on the opening day where you're under pressure to get a good result right away. I think Dundee could maybe nick something.
Yeah, I think the first game back up for Dundee, the crowd will be right behind them. It will be difficult for Motherwell, but you never really know when a team comes back up in the Championship whether the team's actually going to be good enough to take on other teams. Motherwell kind of carried a wee bit by Van Veen last season, so I could see Dundee just nicking it.
Yeah, I think I've been impressed with Dundee's signings, to be honest. Even Trevor Carson yesterday signing on, and I think they're just going to be. They've got a good squad. I think they've improved on the quality in the squad that they had last year, even when winning the Championship. New manager as well, so Tony Docherty. So I watched their game against Inverness on Sunday, and although they didn't get through, they were dominated that game and probably should have got that second goal to go through, but were unlucky in the end. But that will come with match sharpness, and I think the boy Bakayoko that came on at half time on loan from Forest Green, he seems a threat up front as well. So I think it won't be an easy game for Motherwell, that's for sure. And Dundee will be looking to get back into the Premiership in style.
Now for Livingston v Aberdeen, surely this is Livy's season to go down. Martindale's in the press constantly bemoaning his lack of money, trying to basically punt his players to anybody who'll move, to be honest. It's just like saying what you don't want from your manager, especially for a club of Livingston's size, is to come out in the press and go, oh yes, every player with less than a year on their contracts for sale, banging on about, oh, I'll be back on a building site if I don't get results. Like, it's just a bit of a boring sob story, to be honest. Like, obviously Livingston are a very small team with a very small budget, and they've done incredibly well to stay in the Premiership for so many years after getting promoted back in 2017-18. But it's just surely with the lack of signings really, and trying to get rid of Joe Nubley, says that he's easily one of their best players, the man who could possibly score the goals to keep them in the Premier League for another season, and they're trying to flog him just because they're short on cash. Surely with an attitude like that going into the season, there's an inevitability they'll lose some of their best players maybe before the transfer window ends. I just think it's their time to go down. And to be honest, I think Aberdeen will comfortably win this one as well. But your thoughts on Livingston overall, boys? Surely their time's up.
Yeah, I think I agree. But then I think everybody at the start of each season they go, oh, Livy might struggle this year, then they prove us wrong. Whether they keep Nubley or not is another question. I've seen Martindale saying that he deserves to play at a higher level. So whether he leaves or not is another question. But yeah, all we're seeing now is Martindale complaining about the budget, which is probably right to do. And every manager wants to compete in the league and wants to obviously keep their team up. But when it's constant, I think he's just trying to get more money out of the board to try and secure that Premiership safety. But I do think they'll struggle. And Aberdeen, they've been some of the recruitment they've been doing, and obviously finishing third last year. I think Leighton Clarkson on a permanent deal was outstanding business. It's something I didn't expect them to do, to be honest. And I think they'll obviously be aiming for third. Same with Hearts and Hibs, and I think it'll be a challenging aspect of the season. But I think they'll be in a comfortable position to go and challenge for that again.
Yeah, I think it's just been getting repetitive for Martindale. It keeps coming out, and the more he says it, the less people are really actually taking notice, and they're just not paying attention to it. Still a tough place to go for any team, no matter what the Livy squad's like, with the type pitch, AstroTurf. But the signings Aberdeen have made have been very, very convincing. Realistically, on paper, they should be much, much better than Livy. And if they want to get further this season, this type of game that they need to win. So I can see Aberdeen win.
I reckon Adons could find that one fairly comfortable. The Spaghetti Had's always a tough venue to attend, no matter what team you support. I mean, they've taken points off Celtic, Hearts, Rangers. The big boys have actually struggled at that arena in recent times. I'm still not over that 5-0 defeat a number of years ago, but we're going to move past that very quickly. But I do think this could possibly be Livy's time to return to the Championship. And then for my lot, Heart and Midlothian away to St Johnstone in the first game of the season. I'll be honest, that fixture gives me the fear. St Johnstone's the ground that I've visited away from home in the Premiership, apart from Hibs, the most. I've been to McDiarmid Park a good 8 or 9 times, and I've had one win to show for it, and that was the last time I played there. And it's just, no matter what, St Johnstone away always gives me the fear. It just reeks of 1-0 Stevie May whenever you rock up in Perth. But Hearts need to be shown a lot better than they did at points last season. We've not got guaranteed group stage football this time, as we finished 4th. Once ahead of Stevens Hibs, might I add. Get it right up here. But I do think that if we're serious about challenging Aberdeen, who have made some very convincing signings, as you said, Logan, I mean, Clarkson's ridiculous business, and they've been splashing the cash on a lot of players, and they've kept Duke, which I'm, till now anyway, which I'm still quite surprised about. I thought he'd have been off straight away for a big money offer, but St Johnstone away, it's a very tough game, don't get me wrong, but it's a game that if Hearts are really serious about going for third properly again this year, need to be winning it. But I'm going to optimistically say 2-1. Liam Boyce is hopefully going to be involved. We could have a couple of new signings involved as well. So it all depends on how much firepower I've got at our disposal. But yeah, 2-1, Shankland penalty, because that happens every single week.
Yeah,
I think if you don't manage to beat... What you go, Stephen?
Go. Yeah, to be honest, I really don't rate St Johnstone right now. I think they were really, really poor last season. Even though games where the Hibs went, for example, they still struggled at times. I think Hearts, they're slowly starting to get back to making a few signings, and I think they definitely do need a few, and probably a few more. But realistically, they should be beating St Johnstone if they want to get third. This is again the game they need to win.
And that's not without talking about that horrendous League Cup show and dumped out in the group stages, losing to Stenhousemuir and Stirling Albion. Horrific. I know we talked about Livingston, but on current form, maybe St John's could be rivaling them for the drop.
Yeah, I think they're not going to give anything away, but probably my favourites.
Yeah, I don't think they've not really made many signings either to improve that squad or even replace the injuries that they've got in that squad. Obviously, Stephen McLean is in there now, and he was there at the end of the season as a interim manager, and he was given the job on a permanent basis. But I think when you get beat 4-0 at home of Stirling Albion, no disrespect to Stirling Albion, but St Johnstone's an established Premiership club. They should be top in that group. And I watched St Johnstone against Dunfermline in a pre-season friendly, albeit it was early days in pre-season, but they didn't look horrendous. They had a few young players in their squad. Graham Carey scored an absolute beauty that day and was very impressive. But St Johnstone should be doing better. But I do think Hearts should comfortably win at McDiarmid Park, but it's Hearts at McDiarmid Park, so you never know.
Exactly. It's just a horrendous venue for a lot of teams struggle at McDiarmid Park, admittedly, but Hearts are certainly one of them. And right. Next up, Kilmarnock versus Rangers at Rugby Park. Kyle Vassell's the new club captain at Kilmarnock, and he was actually had a pretty decent showing last season. Kind of came into his own, and I think he's actually a very decent Premiership striker. Obviously, he was a new signing, but I think he's done fairly well. And I'm going to back him to score against Rangers, but I don't think it'll mean anything. I reckon Rangers will win that game 3-1.
Yeah, I think it'd be a typical sort of Rangers concede early, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, look how poor they are," and then they'll just completely flip it when they get out of third gear at the start of the game. I think it'll be 3-4-1. Rangers, obviously.
Yeah, I think Rangers will comfortably win the game. They've made a few impressive signings themselves as well. I've watched, Kilmarnock were in Dunfermline's group for the League Cup group stages, so they beat Dunfermline at East End Park, and I wasn't at the game that day, but I heard they were okay and they moved the ball about well, but they did get beat off Raith Rovers on penalties, so they didn't cruise the League Cup group. Although I think one of that Kilmarnock's group was one of the more difficult groups, always having two Championship sides as well. So they've had good preparation, and their fixture list coming up is difficult with that League Cup draw as well. So we'll get onto the League Cup draw a bit later on. But Kilmarnock have a tough start to the season, and I think it'll be difficult for them to get points on the board early days, as Rangers I think will win tomorrow or Saturday. Sorry.
And finally, Hibs will be taking on St Mirren again. Hibs are looking to challenge Hearts for European football again next season. And again, we've said that a fair few times now, but if they're serious about really going for it, it's a game that you'd expect them to really want to win. St Mirren, of course, securing their first ever top six finish last season. But again, they've had a bit of upheaval with obviously Trevor Carson getting let go to Dundee, and the reasons behind that allegedly are actually pretty funny. But they're losing one of their better goalkeepers. It's still not a fully established squad, although they have made a few signings here and there. But again, I reckon Hibs will nick that 1-0.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how both teams do. St Mirren had a good season last year, finishing in the top six. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. They made a few signings themselves, and let a few players go, and they managed to keep hold of Bacchus as well, who I think is a key player for them, and they've made Mark O'Hara captain, I think, as well. So they're looking impressive. Hibs, we'll see how they do tonight. That embarrassing result last week was outstanding. And then Lee Johnson's comments after it was a bit controversial. But I think they'll win tonight. I think. Well, we thought they would win it a canter last week, but turned out they didn't. Although I think if they do lose tonight, I don't think Lee Johnson will be in a job come Sunday.
That's not. Even if I can't see us getting beat tonight, but I think the game on Sunday is very much.
Clip that just in case.
I think the game on Sunday really will be dictated by tonight. I don't think by any shot Johnson will be away. Johnson's got the job for the next few months, no matter what happens. Unless Hibs are sitting at the bottom come the end of August, end of September, there's no way he gets sacked. You can't see him leaving. I think they'll win tonight, which means the fans should start to slowly get back on board. It's always an issue with Hibs. I feel like kind of whenever we kind of slip up, we never really all going back to the team, if you know what I mean. Like I think a lot of people struggle. They'll go, nah, well, we just got beat. That was embarrassing. I'm not going. It's on TV. Blah 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 blah. But realistically, like tonight's where the team needs you, and hopefully they'll get through now. And Sunday will not be a toxic place. But if they get put out tonight, then I think it might go the other way.
What's your main goal scorer as well? Obviously, with Kevin Nisbet leaving.
Dylan Benty in on Sunday. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Was it
He should
not
be. Well, I imagine he'll be available for Sunday.
What are you saying, Aaron?
What's that, Aaron?
There's like 700k have spent on him.
Big investment. I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing Hibs fans can't complain about. A lot of the time, people moan about the investment, but recently, in the last couple of years, they've really put the money where their mouth is. I think they've really backed the goal, been striving for, and I mean, Lee Johnson's the most backed Hibs manager ever, probably. Like nobody's been given that sort of money, so he's basically got a lot of pressure this season. I think if Hibs finish outside of top four, I think they'd be under a lot of pressure.
Now moving on to the Scottish Championship opening day. First of all, Arbroath taking on Dundee United. Arbroath did struggle a lot last season, and I don't think they'll go down because I think personally they've got too good a squad to go down, certainly this season. But Dick Campbell, as usual, is a miracle worker, and he seems to pull it out the bag. I reckon he's like the Martindale of the Championship, just pulls it off every single time. Although maybe that's a bit disrespectful to that. Actually, I don't know, but I do think that he is, again, a master of making the best of what he's got. I mean, Arbroath almost got promoted 2 seasons ago to the Premiership. It's easy to forget that. They were on such a high, and they've still managed to stay in the Championship, which is testament to the hard work put in by the management team and for the fans there, really, because they've really backed the club and helped it really transform. I mean, the first time I ever saw Arbroath, they were playing at Meadowbank in front of 300 people, and now they're a solid, consistent Championship side. So there's been a lot of hard work put in, but they're clearly reaping the rewards. But as for this opening day fixture, Dundee United, let's be honest, they are favourites for the league. They'll want to bounce straight back up, and I reckon they are going to win this one by 2-0.
Yeah, I've got a similar opinion. They've got a good squad for the Championship. I think a lot of the players from last year are still there, and there've been a few good signings as well. Louis Moult, if he stays fit, will probably end up top goal scorer in the Championship. Declan Gallagher, Scotland international. So they did struggle in the League Cup group stages, a few poor results. Obviously getting beat off Thistle and then Spartans as well. Not going through in their group was disappointing for them, but I think Jim Goodwin will say to the players that the league is the priority this season to get straight back up to the Premiership. And tomorrow night will be interesting. Arbroath's a tough place to go. It'll be cold even in the start of August, but it seems like they're taking a good away support tomorrow night, and then they should be picking up all 3 points.
Yeah, it will be tricky for them. There's no doubt about that. But I can see Dundee United winning it, to be honest. I think they did have a little slippery start, but I don't. At the end of the day, the League Cup group stages are affected by just prolonged pre-season. They didn't really have a chance to get back into it. So I can see them winning, to be honest.
Next up, Logan, I'll basically let you take the reins for this one. Dunfermline Athletics opening game of the Championship season after winning League One last campaign. You've got Airdrieonians at home who secure promotion via the playoffs. So, what's your thoughts on, well, I guess the Pals overall going into this season, and also how you feel the opening day is going to go?
Yes, Airdrie's a team we know well from last season. A few crazy games against them last year. 3-0 down away at Airdrie, and then they get a man sent off, and we come back and win 4-3 in the second half. And then the last game against them, we went down to 9 men and managed to secure a draw. So most games last year were against them were competitive. And as James McPick said, they were probably the second best team in that and second best football inside in that league, and it proved it with the playoffs last year. Rhys McCabe's got them playing very well, and they've signed our former striker Nikolai Todorov, so it'll be interesting to see him come back. Hopefully, not on the score sheet. As for us, Dunfermline, it's been a good start to the season, I'd say. Only the one defeat in the League Cup group stage, and that was against Kilmarnock. A penalty shootout victory against our local rivals, Raith Rovers, as well, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So a few injuries in the squad which aren't helping. Matty Todd, Kane Ritchie-Hoss are both out for a few months with the same ankle injury, both required surgery. And then today it was announced that our goalkeeper, Dennis Mehmet, is out for foreseeable future as well. And we've brought in Harrison Sharp from Dundee on loan. So it should be an interesting start to the season. It won't be easy. It definitely won't be easy, but I can see us picking up the 3 points and hopefully getting on to a good start, as we have got a tough fixtures as well coming up.
I definitely think Dunfermline right now, if I look at their team on paper, they're really lacking in the midfield. I don't think they've got that midfielder that's going to drive for the ball. I think with Todd going out injured, and obviously he's been playing further forward, you lose that sort of creativity and lose the goals, because I think the best way Dunfermline are going to get goals this season is Lewis McCann coming in from the left, taking his man on and hitting a shot, because I think Whiting, when I've seen him, has been a bit subpar. I think you definitely need someone in the attacking midfield role that can kind of help, especially with Kane Ritchie-Hoss. He's obviously out, so you've been playing Comrie much further forward. I don't think he's really upped it. Like I rate him defensively, but I don't think he gives you anywhere near as much as Ritchie-Hoss. I can definitely still see it being a tough game for both teams, but I think there'll be a couple goals. But I think Dunfermline will nick it.
Next up, Greenock Morton will be taking on Ayr United, and the Ton have just announced in the last hour or so that they've signed former Hearts goalie Jamie McDonald, who was also a coach at Edinburgh City last season. I was actually informed he was away to play in South Africa, but I kept man a couple of weeks ago, so I'm very surprised to see him rock up in Inverclyde. Maybe his sat-nav got broken. I'm not too sure, but regardless, Jama will be a very impressive signing for Greenock Morton. Obviously, it spent a lot of time at Raith Rovers in recent seasons and was very impressive at Starks Park, but now the next chapter of his career is in the blue and white hoops of Morton, and they'll be taking on Ayr United at Capello for the opening game of the Championship season. And solely just because McDonald has signed there, I reckon they've got it in them to pull off a win, with him pulling off the ridiculous amount of saves that he tends to do on a weekly basis. Inverness are, to be honest, not Inverness, what am I on about? Ayr United are a decent side, but I do feel that Morton will have the edge over them with the home advantage in their first game of the season.
Yeah, I think that Ayr United they've lost their main man Akinyemi as well, going to York City. So whether they've replaced him with the new striker that they've brought in, I think his name is Rose. I think that was his name. Whether he can fulfil the heights of Akinyemi is yet to be seen. They've brought in Aidan McGeady as well, who Stephen I could say knows well, but he spent most of his time on the in the physio room last year. So
About 4 games.
so they've got Aidan McGeady and Jamie Murphy on the wings now. So certainly experienced wingers with quality. Whether they can stay fit is another question. But yeah, Capello's a hard place to go. I know that over recent years, going with Dunfermline. So yeah, I think it'll be a tight game and possibly a draw at Capello.
Yeah, I think as Logan said, they're losing their main man. Had a pretty decent season coming into the back end of it. Obviously, with numerous teams all fighting for something, they were up there. But I don't really know, to be honest. I couldn't give you like if they've signed Aidan McGeady, but if Aidan McGeady stays fit, he rips that championship apart. But if he doesn't stay fit, then well, it's a waste of a wage. So I could see the game on Saturday being a little bit tight. But I think Ayr might nick it. I think Ayr might put it 1-0.
Next up, Inverness, Caledonian Thistle taking on Queen's Park. However, Caley have certainly been a club in turmoil over the summer months. A lot of fans not happy with the way the club's being run. And to be honest, Inverness, every year you always think they can maybe get back up, because obviously when we were growing up, it was always Inverness in the top flight. But since they've went down, they've just, aside from the odd Scottish Cup run, like I'm convinced Inverness Caley Thistle's only purpose is to beat Falkirk at Hampden every 6 or 7 years. Apart from that, it's just like, what do? They're just mid-table in the Championship and go on mental cup runs every once in a while. But I don't think they'll be challenging for promotion. They might get playoffs at a push, but I could see Caley once again staying firmly rooted in the second division of Scottish football. And I think Queen's Park are going to do a number on them in the Highlands. Queen's Park, obviously a club who have been aiming very high in recent years, didn't quite get the promotion they were looking for, obviously losing out to Partick Thistle, who'd also, for the Jags, sadly not get promoted. But they were up there, they were round and about it, and they took Dundee right to the wire. However, didn't manage to secure that elusive promotion to the Premiership. But they'll be aiming high again this season. I think Rudy Payton has been a very good signing for them, banging in goals for fun so far, and I reckon he can be their main man this season. So you know what? I'm going to say 2-0 Queen's Park with Payton with both goals.
I think really in the League Cup though, Queen's Park were kind of a bit middle of the road. I think they maybe weren't necessarily deserving to not pick up many points. Payton obviously playing well, but I can just Inverness up in the Highlands at home. I can just see them. I don't know. I don't think it'll be very easy for Queen's Park. I think if they're gonna get a win, they'll have to fight for it. But I think it might be a draw.
Yeah, Queen's Park have recruited well once again. I think when they lost Simon Murray in January, they struggled a wee bit to replace him. They tried to get Connor Shields, and it wasn't really a success. And he wasn't scoring the goals that Simon Murray was. So I think that kind of stalled the promotion hopes. But they brought in, as you said, Rudy Payton, who's the favourite to get the top goal scorer in the Championship. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. And then as for Inverness, as you said, I don't think they'll be up near the top end of the table. I think there'll be another mid-table season for Inverness. Billy Dodds, he's done well for them so far, and he'll be continuing to try and do the same with limited resources, really.
And finally, Partick Thistle taking on Wraith Rovers at Firhill. Wraith Rovers have had a bit of a takeover in summer. Kelty Hearts, former investors, making the short trip over Fife from Kelty to Kirkcaldy and splashing the cash, to be fair, at Starks Park, doing the stadium up, bringing in loads of new players, and Wraith are assembling some squad, to be honest with you. I reckon they've been there or thereabouts the last couple of years, kind of threatened to maybe make a dash for it. However, never really had that end product. But I do think this will be the year that they finally make a serious push for promotion. Certainly playoffs. Whether they go up or not, who knows? But I think this will be the year that Wraith finally do something in the Championship. And I reckon they're going to nick this one 2-1.
I hope not.
I wonder why.
No, Wraith Rovers have recruited well. Obviously, know the guys that went in there really well. So, they've recruited well, I think. And even when Dunfermline played them a few weeks ago, they could see that the threat that they've got going forward. They play a really attacking, high tempo formation, which does leave them risky at the back. Or with a lack of numbers at the back, but they require the energy to get the players back in order to defend. So yeah, I think they've still got players out injured as well. Still got a few. I think Aidan Connolly's still injured. Jack Hamilton's just returning from injury. So Ethan Ross still to come back as well. So I think they'll do well this season as well. Obviously progressing to the second round of the League Cup. But for the Fife derby, they'll not be winning any of them. Hopefully.
Again, clip that. Right, that's the Premiership and Championship covered. Now to do just some general predictions. So first of all, boys, your Premiership and Championship winners. I'm going to keep it fairly simple. I think it'll be Celtic and Dundee United. Nothing daft, nothing silly is what you'd expect, but I reckon those two have got it in the bag.
I'm going to be controversial. I think Rangers are winning. I think the signings that they've made have been really impressive. But did my mate just go there?
I think
the signings have been impressive. Alright, okay, my camera just froze there. I think Rangers will win it this season. I'm just really impressed by the signings. I think Michael Beale's really got a grip of the squad. I think he's now got a good front line that he can work with. I think Celtic bringing in Brendan Rodgers. It's Brendan Rodgers, so he's a top quality manager. He should be doing well in the league, but you never know what's going to happen after something like Ange leaving and then Jota going as well. They've done well to keep Kyogo. I think he was a big one. I think if they lost him, it would have been a lot different. But it'll be tight. It'll be really tight. But I can see Rangers winning it. I can see Dundee United winning the Championship as well.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron. I think Celtic and Dundee United will do the business. I don't think Raith Rovers will be far away and Queen's Park will be far away. They've both got strong squads, but not as strong as Dundee United's. And there's still plenty of time in the window as well for all the teams to still recruit. So still early days, but I do believe that Celtic and Dundee United will manage it.
Now for relegation and third place. I refuse to go against my own team, so I'm going to back Hearts to wrestle third place back of Aberdeen. Hopefully, it'll be tough given the signings I've made, but I can't bet against my own boys, I'm sorry. And as for relegation, it's still a two-way thing for me. It's going to be either Livingston or St Johnstone. I can't quite pick yet, because obviously, Livy, you think of them, yeah, they'll be going down, but we see that every year. And to be honest, with St Johnstone, I knew they needed a bit of a squad rebuild and a clear out, but that League Cup form, as previously mentioned, was alarming. So it all depends how they start the league season, but Livy or St Johnstone for me, I can't quite decide yet. Maybe come back in a month's time, see how it is, but for now, I still can't quite decide on either one of those.
I think if after tonight Hibs get beat and I say they're going to finish third, it'll look pretty bad, but I think the signings Hibs have made have been good. I'm quite happy with the pedigree, the fact they've been playing first team games, experienced players. It'll be really tight. I think Hearts and Aberdeen especially. I don't know if Aberdeen will be able to cope with the Thursday Sunday. I'll be intrigued to see how they do with that. But I'll say Hibs are going to tip the two teams to third. I'd actually say Livy and St Johnstone, they're both kind of down there. I think St Johnstone will go down, to be honest. I think Livy could be in trouble playoff wise if they get dragged into it. But I think St Johnstone will finish bottom.
I'm going to disagree with both of you. I'm going to go for Aberdeen to finish third again. I think they've recruited really well, and as I said before, and Barry Robson's done really well since he came into the job, and there's a real buzz I think around Pittodrie at the moment. So I think they'll finish third, and then as for relegation, I'm going to go with Ross County. I was not impressed by them in the League Cup group stages and at the end of last year. They have brought in some decent players. They brought in Kyle Turner from Partick Thistle, who I think will do well for them, but I do think they'll struggle again this season, and I don't think they'll avoid the drop.
We came that close to losing the Mallard last season. It was almost unbearable. I refused to let Ross County go down without one more venom in that glorious bar. Honestly, if you've never been, it's genuinely worth the trip. It's top tier. And finally, the top goal scorer and manager to be sacked first. I reckon Kyogo wins the Golden Boot. Shank on the run him close like he did last season, but Kyogo's playing for Celtic. He's obviously going to get more chances, and he'll probably score a lot more. I don't know how to word it properly. He'll probably get more chances to score more goals. Shankland can drag Hearts to goals by himself, but given the quality of team that Kyogo's playing, and I reckon he'll just nick it again. And as for manager to be sacked first, I'm going to go with Stephen McLean of St Johnstone. Former Hearts player, obviously, hurts to say that. And I actually really liked him at Hearts, even though he wasn't in the most successful team. He was a clever player, but now he's a manager. All emotion kind of has to go out the window. I'm trying not to be too biased towards him just because of his Hearts connections. But Martindale is part of the furniture at Livingston. And regardless of form, he's always going to be there. I don't think he'll leave until he walks. Honestly, absolutely have to fire him. He doesn't want to go on that building site. He's mentioned it once or twice, or 20 times in the press since last Tuesday. But I do think that Martindale would have to sack himself, basically, given how integral he is, not to just the management side, but the whole club structure of Livingston. He's doing so much more than just the manager's job. I do think that McLean, if both Livy and St Johnstone were in trouble, I reckon St Johnstone would probably give him the bullet before Livy even think about replacing Martindale, because he's been there for that long. So I think Stephen McLean, if St Johnstone struggle, is going to be the first manager gone in the Premiership.
Yeah,
I've got to agree with you there as well.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I think that Kyogo finished up well. I think the new signing that Rangers have made, Danilo, I think he'll if he gets settled in fairly quickly, then he'll score a lot of goals for Rangers. But I don't see anybody stopping Kyogo bar Kyogo getting an injury, to be honest. Shankland, always close, always scores goals, a lot of penalties. But
Look out.
but I think Kyogo will finish top goal scorer, and then Stephen McLean, as you said, struggled so far this season, and it's not been a great start to League Cup group stages. It would be the perfect start to a league campaign, winning over Hearts tomorrow. I keep saying tomorrow, but it's Saturday. But it'll be interesting to see. And then with Martindale as well, I can't see him getting sacked. It'll be another situation of him walking. I don't think Lee Johnson's far away from getting sacked either.
What happened? But yeah, I agree. Both of you, I think Kyogo will win it. I think Rangers will have a few players that will be quite close. I think Shankland obviously taking Hearts penalties. They seem to win a lot, so he might be right up there. It's tricky from a Hibs perspective. You don't really know how Dylan Bentley's going to do. You can't really say Boyle, for example, because he's only just coming back from injury. I think Yuan is very much a confidence player. I think if he gets going and he gets a good run, he'll score a good 2 goals. But if the games go on and he's not scoring, then he might struggle. And again, I think Stephen McLean will be the one that gets the boot first, to be honest. I think the fact St Johnstone let Davidson go last season just kind of signals to me that if they're willing to let him go when they're in trouble, then I could see them letting McLean go.
Very valid point. Obviously, Callum Davidson worked wonders for St Johnstone, winning them that COVID Cup double. But you'd think that obviously they were at a time when he got let go, they were struggling. But you'd think that given everything he'd done for the club, they would have kept a hold of him. But I suppose there's no room for sentimentality in football, especially not in the modern day. So again, if they can find a man that won them one Scottish Cup and 1 League Cup, then I suppose that they can get rid of anybody, really. So now for the League Cup draw. First up, Stirling Albion taking on Aberdeen. Aberdeen should win that comfortably, shouldn't they, boys?
It's just such a strange fixture. I don't understand why it's on a Friday night. why it's not on TV.
It's due to
Right.
Fourth Bank being
Is it?
unavailable to use on the Saturday. I don't know if it's because University of Stirling are playing then
It's a
or
non-football event, actually.
another reason.
It's a
What, sorry?
non-footballing event. A non-footballing event.
Oh, right, okay.
And
Well,
because of
there you go.
Aberdeen's European schedule, it was like they don't want to play on a different day because they've been travelling here, there, and everywhere for Europe. So Friday was the only day that really worked for them. So that's why they ended up agreeing it. The fans were initially very confused, but Alan Burrows, the CEO, was very open and transparent on Twitter, and its communication, I feel that a lot of clubs in Scotland should aspire to reach. He was very open with the reasonings behind it, and after the full explanation was given, Don's fans were a lot more forgiving. They're also making it available to watch on Red TV, on pay-per-view, so those who can't travel to the game, understandably, obviously a lot of Aberdeen fans do stay in the Central Belt, but if you're travelling up from Aberdeen on a Friday night to Stirling, it's a fair trek. So they're doing everything they can to accommodate their fans in a very unique situation. But yeah, I reckon the Dons will win that one fairly comfortably. Stirling Albion League 2 winners last year, but Aberdeen were the third best side in the country last year. It still pains me to say that, but I reckon they've got that one in the bag pretty easily.
Yeah, I've got to agree. Got to agree with it.
Yeah, me too.
Next up, Rangers against Morton at Ibrox. That, let's be honest, really should only end up being a comfortable win for Rangers. Championship opposition at home for the second best team in the country, I guess you could say. Yeah, I reckon Rangers will scud them, to be honest. I reckon it'll be 3-4. Now, it depends. I guess if Jamie McDonald has his wonderful miracle gloves on, he could maybe reduce it. But yeah, I reckon Rangers' new signings will be up to prove a point, and there's no better way to do that against perceived easier opposition at home in the Cup to really make an impression on the fans early doors. I reckon Rangers will win that one 3-0.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Rangers
same with me. I think that you rarely see teams go to Ibrox or Celtic Park and win, even if they're Premiership sides. So Championship sides, it'll be even more difficult. Morton will go there and they'll have a game plan probably to try and frustrate Rangers. I can't see them going there and attacking because they will get punished. But yeah, only outcome I can see is a Rangers victory.
Yeah, I think the Rangers will brush past them, to be honest. Maybe they might get a goal for the days out sake, but Rangers will go straight past them.
A very interesting one next up. Airdrieonians at home to Ross County. I reckon Airdrie can swing a surprise and pull off a shock victory. Obviously, Airdrie were League One last year, a championship side, newly promoted, but they were, as Logan said, a very good footballing side. I saw them on a number of occasions at Meadowbank and at Excelsior last season. I know what Airdrie are all about. Fast football. Eastleigh Cape has them playing a nice brand of football. I'll happily admit that. And Ross County could struggle again this season. They weren't the best last campaign, obviously narrowly avoiding relegation, but Airdrie are on such a high right now. They've ended their 10-year stay, I believe it was, in League One with a thrilling playoff victory at the Hope CBD Stadium, or whatever it's called these days, the Hamilton Accies ground, put it that way. I reckon that they can really swing a surprise, and new signing Nikolai Todorov will score the winning goal. That's my bold prediction for this week's episode. I reckon Todorov 1-0 Airdrie.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think that Todorov will do well at Airdrie, and I think that Airdrie will win that game. I think that Airdrie's ground, they're really, really good at home on that AstroTurf pitch in Ross County. Depending on how they start the league season, I think that Airdrie will pull up the shock there.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think if there's going to be a result where a team from a lower division beats the Premiership side, I think that'll be the one that's more likely. I think Airdrie, as you say, last season they were playing good football, and for them they'll be hoping that they can carry it into this season as well. Obviously Ross County, like Logan was saying earlier, not been that great. So yeah, I think Airdrie will win it.
Another lower league shock could possibly be in the cards in this next fixture. Livingston at home to Ayr United. I'm going to go bold again. I reckon Ayr United are going to win that one. Livingston, as I've said, have struggled. I mean, they barely qualified out of the League Cup group in the first place to get this fixture. I think that they could really struggle. It'll not be a classic game. Not that many games between Livy and anybody are classics, but I do think that Ayr United are going to pull off a shock and win this one.
I'm going to go with Livy. I think that Livy will still manage to progress. Obviously, still a Premiership side, so unsure about Ayr United so far. I believe they did top their League Cup group. They beat Alloa by, I think it was 6-0. So, but I do think that Livy will go through. They'll just show their Premiership quality, and I think they'll progress to the quarterfinals.
I'll stop you at
I
Premiership.
agree. What was that?
I'll stop you at Premiership quality. Love nobody left at that point.
I agree though. I think don't really know. I mean, I'm not ruling Ayr out. There's definitely a chance Ayr could win it, but I think Livy will get past them.
Next up, St Mirren at home to Motherwell. It's always a fairly evenly contested game. Most times the two sides meet, but I reckon home advantage will give the Buddies just that little bit of edge they need. 2-1 St Mirren.
Yeah, it's an all Premiership tie, and I think that another competitive game. I think they're all competitive, apart from maybe Rangers, Malton, and even Kilmarnock Celtic. I think will be a competitive game, but yeah, I can see St Mirren winning as well. I think they've, as we said before, recruited well, and I think that Motherwell always a strange one. Motherwell, I think they either do really well or they have a poor start and then they come back into it. So I think St Mirren will progress as well.
Next up, Heart of Midlothian at home to Championship side Partick Thistle. This may come back to bite me, but I can see Hearts winning this one. Not fairly comfortably, no disrespect to Partick Thistle, because they obviously had a very good season last year. I think Brian Graham's always going to be a threat. And the last time Hearts played Thistle at Tynecastle in the Cup, it was in the Scottish Cup, admittedly, a couple of years ago. But we had to come back from behind after Scott McDonald's early goal put the Jags in front. Goals from Uche Ikpeatsu and Sean Clare eventually got us the win that day. But Thistle were very impressive. I know it was a long time ago, but the same principle still stands. It's a big game at Tynecastle. Thistle will be well up for it. They'll be eager to show the country what they can do and get themselves one game from Hampden. Thistle always seem to be like 2 games from Hampden, 1 game from Hampden. Finally getting to go there for a cup semi-final and find a way to lose. It just seems to be the Partick Thistle way in cup competitions, certainly in our lifetime, but I just think that Hearts will have too much for them. Premiership quality and all that. I've heard that phrase coined already, but I do think in this situation, genuinely Hearts will have too much quality for Partick Thistle on the day. So I'm going to say 3-0. I'll say 3-0. I'll be bold. I'll put my neck on the line again. 3-0 Hearts against Partick Thistle.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think that Hearts will progress. As I said, all these games are mostly competitive, and I think that Partick Thistle will go to Tynecastle and they'll certainly cause Hearts a few problems. Whether they go through or not, I don't think so. Hearts have started okay in pre-season. I think they've done all right. Made a few decent signings as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they start the league campaign before they go into this cup tie. But yeah, I think Hearts will just have too much for Partick Thistle.
Yep. I agree with both of you. I think Hearts will get the crowd behind them. I think they might score early, and if they score early, I think I can't see Partick Thistle getting back into it.
Well, I'll let you take the lead in this one, Stephen. Hibernian versus Wraith Rovers. Surely Hibs can get past that lot.
This shows I still think it's so dependent on the next few days. If Hibs go and get beat tonight, then they might go get beat at the weekend, and then you never know. But going on off hope, they should confidence. I think they should win Thursday. Go into that game in good form. I think Rafe are a good side. They've brought in a good few players. They all are of decent quality. So they'll definitely get about Hibs, but I think Hibs will maybe a 2-goal win. I think it'll be very, very sort of tight And Hibs, it might be 1 goal in it for a while, but I think they'll kill it near the end of the game.
I'm going to go 3-0 Hibs.
That hurt to say it, didn't it?
Enough said.
That's a very bold prediction. And for the final bit of content on the podcast for the week, the final game to preview in the League Cup, it is going to be Kilmarnock hosting Celtic at Rugby Park. A tougher game than most folk will think, I feel, for the champions. Kilmarnock on their own patch can be very hard to deal with. I found that out the hard way last season after Hearts went 1-0 up and completely surrendered that lead, going down 2-1 in the end to Christian Doidge of all people. Obviously, he's now back at Easter Road now, but yeah, that one stung. I'm not going to... won't sugarcoat that. I don't like losing at Kilmarnock because at home we always seem to win fairly comfortably, save from last season's League Cup, to be fair. And thinking back a bit further under Steve Clarke, fair enough, but they beat everybody back then. For most of my lifetime anyway, Kilmarnock at home has been a fairly stress-free game, but we'll not talk about last year's League Cup campaign anymore because it lasted a whole game. But I do think that Kelly will cause Celtic problems. I know I mentioned him earlier, but Kyle Vassell is always going to be a big physical presence up front. Absolute unit, our boy. Fair play to him. Must love the protein shakes. But I do think that Celtic will come away with this one with a narrow 1-0 victory.
I don't think it'll be narrow, to be honest. I think maybe the game at the start will be close. But if Celtic play a strong team, I can't see them not putting a couple or even more past Kelly.
Yeah, I think Celtic will win convincingly. I remember a game last year where they scored loads of goals early on at Rugby Park and they seemed like they were going to run away with it and win 5 or 6-0. I can't remember what the final score was. But yeah, I think that Celtic will, if they do have a good start to the league campaign, which I think they will, they will comfortably win at Rugby Park. Kilmarnock, as I said, have that tough run of fixtures in the next few weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how they start, but I can't see them progressing.
And with that, that's going to bring the first episode of Across the Forth to a close. We will be filming this podcast on the uni campus once we're back in a couple of weeks. So hopefully for the next episode, if we can sort something out early with the technician, but we'll have to do this one online because it's a little bit last minute trying to sort all this out. But thank you very much for listening or watching, depending on what social media platform you're using to listen to our ramblings for the last just under an hour. Thank you very much for that. Cheers to Logan and Stephen once again for coming on, and hopefully we'll be coming at you with some better mic quality next time. We're really going to try and up the production quality over the course of the coming weeks and the seasons ahead. But for now, thank you very much for listening, and until the next episode, we will see you for more very soon. But until then, take care and bye for now.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.